Hello, everybody. How are you? You're all muted.
No, I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Let me just get my volume up. Now I can hear everybody. Welcome to the final class of Midlife and Death. We hope we've received some kind of reconciliation over these 5 weeks. Um, yeah, I think we lost Sharon. That's okay. She'll come back in. Um, so since Friday, how have you been?
Good.
Good. Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent. Good, good. Yes.
Busy, 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 realigning thoughts and changing and shifting and writing and doing.
Beautiful. Excellent. That's what we want. Yeah. Yeah, so today's the big day is your presentation. Um, and that's what we're doing today. So what we have is basically three things we're going to do. We're going to have your presentation time. We're going to do the guided meditation that I promised, and then we're just going to do a quick recap, and that's it. And then and of course, we'll still be meeting on Friday for the coaching call. See, and that will give you some more time too to reflect a little bit, make some tweaks if you want, and bring any questions or thoughts or comments or yeah buts as we close out the course on Friday. Um, so that said, who would like to begin uh, with their presentation? And take as much time as you need
I can
because,
go first.
okay, beautiful. Um,
I sat down and wrote a will.
okay,
It's currently stuck on the website because I didn't want to pay for it at the moment.
okay,
But it's something that I've needed to do, um, especially after Phil died. And I inherited all of his investments and everything. And there are things that I have to meet with an actual lawyer about because it involves setting up an account for our niece and nephew for Rosa and Philip, um, and to ensure that their grandmother doesn't get a hold of the money, um, and so that they have something to start their adult lives with. Um, and I also had to specify what's going to happen to my cats, just in case, and what I want done with the house and the car. And right now, it's set up in case I go before my parents. Everything goes to my dad, and um, just follow the guidelines of what needs to be done. And one of the things I also did is I sat down with my best friend Monica, and she's actually going to be the executor of the will, because I know some of the things I want to do, especially with Phil's money. Um, I don't know if other people will be happy with it. And uh, essentially, his mother doesn't get a hold of it. And the fact that Monica's my best friend, she's like a sister to me, and she's not my parents. It can't be argued that they had something to do with it.
right.
And one of the interesting things I was on Rocket Lawyer, I think is the website I was on, and they had a place for your digital stuff. So like all of your different like social media accounts, your emails and stuff like that. And that's not something we did with Phil, but I had his username and his password for everything anyway, so that was fine. Um, but um, setting it up so that it doesn't get hacked or fall into the wrong hands. And I've got a bunch of techies in my life. And so I've put um, my friend Mark as the one because he'll probably want to go through all my pictures because I have a lot of stuff with Phil and stuff with the kids. And I've put Monica along with that because she's also tech savvy. Um, yeah, and it was hard to do because you don't want to think about it, especially only being 39. And but it needed to be done because um, anything could happen. Anything could happen. I could go to Wegmans and something could happen because people drive like idiots. Um, and I want to make sure Melody and Sophia go someplace that they will be taken care of. Because I've seen how some of my friends take care of their animals, and I don't want that for them. They're high maintenance. They're high maintenance. Sophie, she has her own pillow.
That's just normal. That's not high maintenance.
I'm sorry, what are you talking about?
Yeah, that is a well adjusted cat there.
What's in your lap, Lorena?
Oh, well, she's on the yoga mat.
Oh, of course.
Of course.
Doing way downward dog.
The other one's in the bedroom, I think, but
yeah.
Sophie's had a rough morning because she was hungry and she didn't like the options I gave her.
Yes, cats.
Yeah.
So Becca, thank you. I appreciate the summary there, and what I also appreciate is the thought process that went into it, right? Just like as difficult as you said it was, saying, you know, these are the things that are important to me. These are the people I've assigned and tasked to take care. So the big question, I'm going to ask this to everybody, but how do you feel having done this?
I feel relief. Just because there's me in it and not just my family having to figure out what to do. And in doing it, it wasn't just sitting down and doing the will. I talked with Monica and we talked about what I want to happen afterwards. Like I'm going to be cremated. I already have the plot. I'm already going to be next to Phil. But in the service, like I cannot stand, I can't stand Amazing Grace because as soon as it starts, I cry. And granted, I won't be there, but I, I, I don't like Amazing Grace. But there's a couple of different songs. Like there's a couple of Josh Groban stuff I want played, and there's a folk song that has a bunch of different verses. It's called Fare Thee Well. And some of those verses I connect more to. And so I wanted to make sure that those are the specific ones that get worked in and played.
Beautiful. Yeah. So you did more than just a will. You really
I did. Yeah. Because I started and then I couldn't stop.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So practical question. Where are you keeping this documentation and how will you let people know where it is?
Right now it's still on their website. Because I don't have
well, I mean, when you have it,
when I physically have it, I have actually there's that file box behind me. And on top of it is a fireproof folder that I keep. I think my parents' health proxy stuff is in there. Phil's birth certificate and death certificate, my birth certificate are in there, and all of my other important documents are in it.
Okay.
And it's easy to find. I have to clean the closet. I'm hiding the worst of it. Oh, she's done. But yeah, it'll be easy to find, and I already have a note open in my phone that has all of my usernames and passwords in it. And my phone currently does not have a lock on it because the cats aren't gonna steal anything from me, and I don't go to an office. So, and Monica and Heather, they already know this stuff. So,
okay, good, great. So well organized, and you know how. So and it's a feeling of relief to have that taken care of. Yeah. And maybe someday you'll do a little ice card for your fridge.
Yeah. I mean, I've got my parents in my phone already with in case of emergency. And
okay. Excellent. Beautiful. Um, Sharon and Lorena, any thoughts, comments, reflections, suggestions for Becca?
Really helpful. I like just to hear you talk through that, right? Because you don't, if you haven't taken the time, I mean, I sat down to do a will, and oddly enough, mine's still stuck in the website too because I didn't want to pay.
I don't want to pay.
Yeah, but like it was just really helpful to hear you walk through that because it's like the moment you sit down to do it, then that's when the stuff comes up. And it's like, okay, right, I never even thought about my social media accounts and getting into them and, what would happen to them and all of those different pieces. So it's really helpful to hear that. And my niece and nephew and kind of like all those different pieces. One of my very dearest girlfriends, she passed away before her little Jack Russell dog did, um, which it was shocking enough when she passed away. But then there was like that feeling of, oh wow, like what even happened to Buddy? Where did he go? Where did he end up? And when our Henry passed away, I know we were told to keep him and to put him down and then to let all the other dogs come up to him and sniff him and so that they could know that he was gone. So it's just really helpful to hear you kind of talk through all of those pieces so that you can then stipulate and clarify and make it so clear to everyone what you want.
Well, Monica's mother-in-law died just about a year ago, and they were worried about what they were going to do with the dog. Luckily, Dottie decided she was going to go too. So the day after Linda passed, the dog passed. So they are actually, and they had talked about it, they are buried together. The big cemetery near us is Whitehaven Memorial Park. It's beautiful. And they have a bunch of different options. So, like, there's the all chapel section that is um, temperature controlled. And Phil and I are going to be there because, well, that's where Phil already is, but we wanted it so that his mother could go and be with him no matter what the season. She never goes, but that's beside the point. But where Linda is, it's a natural burial. So she was wrapped in whatever biodegradable thing that they do and then put in just a plain box. And then after she was lowered, Tristan, her son, sprinkled Dottie on top. The wind came and blew Dottie onto some of us, but that's basically what they
did. Best laid plans.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, beautiful. Excellent. Great. Any other thoughts, comments? All right. Thank you, Becca. That's awesome. Really incredible work. And I'm glad that you're relieved.
Yeah.
Now just get it off the website eventually.
Yeah, get it off the website. Yeah. Maybe the next paycheck.
You're right. There you go.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Who would like to go next?
Mom, do you want to go or you want me to go?
Sure, it doesn't.
You go ahead. You go.
Okay. Well, I'm a little further along in the process than either of you two young people are, and Bruce and I did our wills in 1921. Oops, in 2021. And so they're up to date, but interestingly enough, there are powers of attorney for financial and for health. And I thought, I should just have a read of that. So I hauled out the one for both of them. And of course, you know what I discovered. It's all written in lawyerese, none of which I can understand. So, and for the financial, it's the where is and the what fors and the do nots and the will do's and so on and so forth. And I'm leaving that to the lawyers and their wisdom. However, with the plan of personal care, I have discovered in that, which is a really great discovery that I need to be much more specific about that. And after the lecture from hmm,
Maria.
Maria, I went on the Canadian website and I got out I can't find it right now, but I got out the advanced care plan for Canada. And there are a lot of questions there that need to be answered. And for me, that circled back to um, the end of life gathering. And once I sort of poke through the options and the thoughts and the things, I come to the end of life gathering. And my sort of end takeaway on that is I need to speak with my daughter about, I mean, we have a family joke and we say, do you know why there's 26 letters in the alphabet? And the answer is because when plan A doesn't work, you've got lots of options. And
Awesome.
it's my sort of realization that in many, and I've watched a few people kind of go through their end of life stuff. And I can write out in detail plan A, but my suspicion is that it's going to end up being more like plan L, M, N, or P. And those are the discussions I want to have with my daughter and my husband, just sort of clarifying. It's not, it's my wish is paramount, but but in that, I want the experience to be as simple and comfortable for those who are experiencing it. So to me, that requires a conversation, a detailed conversation of, what might happen, what might not happen. If you're in hospital, what does that mean? If you're at home, what does that mean? If you don't get a chance to say goodbye, what does that mean? Maybe some letters to be prepared at different times for grandchildren and things through the years to sort of, just in case. So in many ways, it has raised as many questions as it has solved, but they're all good questions. And I'm looking forward in the next weeks and months and so on to complete that more thoroughly. I did do ice cards, both for my husband and for myself, but they reside in our wallets. And so that felt like a good thing. Um, hmm. And I guess the only other thing that I sort of want to add to that is uh, um, my soul sister, who passed away in December 2 years ago, there's a ceremony being held for her on the 17th of August. She lived in a, she was unconscious and she was cared for in
Hospice.
yeah, a lot, I forget what,
Hospice.
hospice. She was in hospice. And there is a fundraiser being held for the hospice um, at that time, and they're going to release um, monarch butterflies.
Oh,
And that just really, again, I don't want to get into say this is what I want and so on, but what I would like for my family to do is hold that in their awareness that if something like that should happen, and she was Jewish, and I have a number of friends who are Jewish, and they celebrate a thing, and I don't even know if I pronounce it right, but on the first anniversary of your death, it, they celebrate your Yazrit
mhm.
or right. I'm not sure which, but it's candles are lit and things are done to bring you back to memory. I'm thinking food and stories and and music, probably. So that's a conversation that I want to have with my families, that perhaps if it works for them uh, on that date, or Plan W, some other date, that should come into play. And that's about, yeah, and the sort of the actual end of life gathering. Well, I spoke to that earlier.
Yeah.
That's so difficult to, you have no way of knowing, you know. I'm thinking drugs and music will probably play a strong influence on what I actually want,
Right
to be
on.
comfortable and to hear music and someone holding my hand.
Beautiful. And that's, I love the simplicity of that. And but I love how you're, Sharon, how you're putting the pieces together and asking the good questions. And that, even that, when this kind of project, which is an ongoing project for all of us, that's also memento mori, right? Is like, and sometimes we're going to slip into, holy shit, this is depressing. The goodbyes, the this, when you're spending this time, let yourself go into that too, bring it close, and it will help inform you as well. You won't stay there because, that's what this whole class is about, is we have to embrace, this isn't about just being smiley face about our death, and coming to terms with it and saying, oh, it's going to be great, it's going to be fine. There's sadness too. We have to also deal with our own grief of our own passing, and that's part of it too. Yeah. I think you were talking the Jewish tradition of yahrzeit candles. Yeah.
That's it. Yes.
Yahrzeit. Yeah. So we do that in my family. We do them for birthdays too, because we're crazy. For people who have passed, because we just love to keep remembering people. And it's interesting that you notice that this behind me is a yahrzeit candle. And
Ah,
I light it before every class, before every session, and I call in my ancestors to be present. So it's a memory for everybody, but we do light individual candles for birth and death dates, just like that. So I love that idea that every year, like for my father, we'll make a little mini altar in each of our houses. And so I'll roll him a cigarette and pour him some scotch, and, something like that. So, or put his favorite snacks out or whatever. I even do it for my cat, so who passed. So, but I love that idea. So yahrzeit, I think, is the word you were looking for.
yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And I guess the only other thing that I would add is that I too, I found a box that is sort of like a giant book, and it's placed on a shelf in this room, and I will start to gather many of the things that I need, and they will be in there. It has begun with the wills and the powers of attorney, and this book that I've made from this class,
mhm.
it will go in it, and so on and
Beautiful.
so forth. So yeah,
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you, Sharon.
and grand.
Great. Any feedback, thoughts, questions, comments for Sharon?
I liked how you talked about how in the moment, music and drugs and somebody holding your hand. It reminded me with Phil, we asked him how he wanted it to be, and he said, I want Becca with me and whoever Becca needs. And basically that translated, I don't want my mom in the room. And um, it definitely worked out that way. And I was able to be in there with him and hold his hand, but so was his dad. And so his dad was there. And then um, his friends got there before he passed. But so we were all standing around him, and I was holding his one hand, his father was holding the other. Um, Mark Anthony, our friend Mark, is very Catholic, and so he did a couple of Catholic prayers, and then we had my father-in-law do some Baha'i sayings,
Mm.
and it was very calming. And it wasn't happy, but it was nice. And he got what he wanted. He was able to have me, he was able to have whoever I wanted, and not his mom.
Mhm. Beautiful. So important.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. So it looks like Sharon, you and Lorena have a lot to
We'll,
discuss. So
we'll talk.
you,
We do.
you
Have your
guys will
people
set
call
that up.
my people.
Yes, yes. Make it. You'll do lunch and
We
Yeah.
will.
talk about it.
And that's
We'll
also
do.
important. It's like
Yeah.
I know my mom doesn't want a church funeral. She just wants a memorial service. But outside of that, I don't really know what she wants.
Yeah.
And my dad hasn't really thought about it for himself. So
Yeah.
I made him start thinking about it.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yes,
That's wonderful.
that's an
Wonderful.
issue. Could
Yeah.
be.
Important to talk about it.
Yeah.
And the people who don't talk about it, it's actually, they don't want to face it, but then it makes it even harder for the people who remain in this realm because not being able to have a conversation openly, um, there's nothing to hold on to after they've passed. There's no, oh, I remember we had that great conversation and, and oh, mom said she wanted to have something like butterflies. Well, what would that idea that um we've talked about this and there's a way to move through grief better when that you're able to have those discussions and honor as best you can, whether it's plan A or plan Z, the what's important to the
Yeah.
person. And you hold those conversations with you as they become part of the grieving process in a healthy way. When we talk about productive grief, well, I know that I did everything. What do we look back on? Did we get to say goodbye? How did this person feel about me when they passed? These are the things that we go back to. So when we can talk about it, I know I constantly return to my father having said how proud of all of his daughters he was. That meant something to me. I was 32 when he died. He was only 62, so it was really early and really awful. But I held that. I was like, well, at least I know that much, right? I knew he loved me, but was he proud, Right. So these are important to have these conversations. Yeah. Excellent. Lorena.
Well, what I'm hearing in all of this is like, it's not a thing you do, it's a process, right? And it's something
Right.
that you have to just
Right.
keep continually revisiting. I've noticed, like, even just in my lifetime, 20 years ago, when somebody died, you just did this and that and the other, right? Like, for the most part, most people had a church service, you followed a certain set of rules and orders, you went to the funeral, you had the burial, and it wasn't as important to have kind of like those structural conversations around what do you want this to look like.
Right.
And so I'm seeing that in all of this, it's not just let's have this conversation once. It's okay, well, like the batteries in the smoke detector, we really need to be
Yes.
revisiting this on a yearly basis. And,
Yeah.
we lost my grandma during COVID. I couldn't go see her. I couldn't leave the US. And so we ended up having her service. It, what? I don't even know. 2 years later, it was
I think,
like
yes.
I
Yes.
couldn't get home for so long. So yeah, like it's just so important to kind of have those plans Z so that, we get to have that closure. But for me personally with this, it's been I kind of focused on three different things. The kind of more pragmatic, practical pieces I've realized in all of this, it's really just quite a mess, really. Um, and so my partner left yesterday to go to New York. And before he left, I said, we need to have a conversation about all of these things. I do know he has a will now, but I don't. And so this house that we've just purchased is in Canada.
Mhm.
And so if I pass away, without a will, it goes to probate. Like, we're not even physically married. So I just like it would be not catastrophic, but it would just be a whole bunch of hassle for everyone. And then on top of it, because he is not a Canadian citizen, if I leave it to him, he will immediately be hit with the 20% foreign uh, investor tax, which is why we didn't buy it together that way in the first place. So it's like, right, there's just like all of these really kind of pragmatic, practical things that neither of us really wanted to talk about. I've said it a few times in the past, which is why he actually has a will now.
Hmm.
But, we need to really sit down and get clear about all of those things. I talked to him about the ice contact on our phones, just putting the cards together to have on the fridge. So we have a date.
Yeah.
um, so we're gonna kind of sit down and go through all of those things and get all those pieces tidied up, a set for here, a set for the US, so that basically all of those pieces are wrapped up. The second piece I did was start thinking about end of life service, which kind of brought up this weird thing around kind of like, don't look at me. Like again at my birthday when people pay attention
Mm.
to me, it was like, oh, that feels weird. Like, why am I thinking about myself and celebrating myself? And I'm not exactly sure where that's come from because we were certainly celebrated as children. I mean, you always had birthday parties and wonderful stuff for us, Mom, but it was like, yeah, it was just weird.
Mine
Um,
comes from childhood trauma. I'm the same way.
okay, yeah. So it's like, and I don't know, maybe it was the collective consciousness of the time of kind of like, don't toot your own horn and
Mm.
like all of those pieces.
Mhm.
But I started thinking about it at my dad's service. It was really sad. His like I call her his new wife, but I mean they got married when I was 20. So like clearly she's been around a very long time. But there was her daughter, her daughter's children, so 5 grandchildren, and 2 of his friends. And I was like, that's just really sad. Um, and I don't know, maybe it was partly because of his age, partly because of he had dementia for at least 10 to 15 years. So he wasn't being social. But I thought, you know what? I really don't want that. And so what I've decided is that every 5 years, I'm having a party. Um, like on Frankie and Grace.
Mhm.
I just want to have, and I got thinking about it the last time that we were talking. I thought about my grandma, right? My grandma, pragmatic woman she was. Well, we're not going to spend money on a funeral. That would just be stupid, right, Verena? Um, and partly I understood what she was saying, but partly it was like, hey, grandma, like it's for us that are left behind, not for you. Um, but what comes to mind is not so much her um funeral, but her 100th birthday and her 90th birthday. And so we had like these big parties where everyone came and celebrated her and family was there and we had cakes and open house. And I just thought, you know what? Like that to me is a funeral. Like when you're there and you get to talk to people and we all get to remember and reminisce and um so that's kind of my idea is kind of like for the next maybe every 10 years for the next, you know, as I'm younger. But as I get older, I think, every 5 years and when you don't know how long you have, I'd rather have it that way. Brings everyone together. And then in terms of end of life, I have
Mhm.
book, Jonathan Livingston Seagull. So when Dad passed, Andy asked me if I would wanted to read something. I didn't really want to do that. I thought about it. I brought the book with me, but it was pissing rain. was awful. And it was just everybody, was not good. So we played the song B from Neil Diamond's whole uh, album. So I had her play that, and then I'm going to read this one piece for here. So it says, they came in the evening then and found Jonathan gliding peacefully and alone through his beloved sky. The two gulls that appeared at his wings were pure as starlight, and the glow from them was gentle and friendly in the high night air. But most lovely of all was the skill with which they flew, their wing-tips moving at a precise and constant inch from his own. Without a word, Jonathan put them to his test, a test that no gull had ever passed. He twisted his wings, slowed to a single mile per hour above stall. The two radiant birds slowed with him, smoothly locked in position. They knew about slow flying. He folded his wings, rolled, and dropped into a dive to 190 miles per hour. They dropped with him, streaking down in flawless formation. At last he turned that speed straight into a long vertical slow roll, then rolled with him. They rolled with him, smiling. He recovered to level flight and was quiet for a time before he spoke. Very well, he said. Who are you? We're from your flock, Jonathan. We are your brothers. The words came strong and calm. We've come to take you higher, to take you home. Home I have none. Flock I have none. I am outcast. And we fly now at the peak of the great mountain wind. Beyond a few hundred feet, I can lift this old body no higher. But you can, Jonathan, for you have learned. One school is finished, and the time has come for another to begin. As it had shined across him all his life, so understanding lighted that moment for Jonathan Seagull. They were right. He could fly higher, and it was time to go home. He gave one last long look across the sky, across that magnificent silver land where he had learned so much. I'm ready, he said at last. And Jonathan Livingston Seagull rose with the two star-bright gulls to disappear into a perfect dark sky.
Oh,
So that's what I want them to read.
yes.
Beautiful.
And to play B. And I feel like the piece that has shifted in this last little bit is just is that I don't know. I think I'm fairly agnostic. I know I believe in something, but what it is, I don't know. None of us know. And so that feels good to me, that this is lessons here, that there will be more lessons beyond, and I'll be ready to leave when I'm ready to leave. And the
Beautiful.
last piece
Mhm.
is this right here that I've worked on.
Oh, yes.
So these are all my people who have left. And the fountain James gave me when I first started my business. But when Sandy, my Jewish godmother, passed 2 years ago, that's Mom's friend, I bought Mom this fountain. So I found her the exact same thing. So to
Yep.
celebrate Sandy, so that she would have that. And now I have, now this reminds me of that. Um, and so I've created that Memento Mori corner, which is right beside my calendar. So every day when I'm looking at my calendar, I'm surrounded by my special people.
Beautiful.
And so that felt very nurturing. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And thank you for that reading too. That's nice to share a little bit of that, of what you would want.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really appreciate how others' passings have influenced your own thoughts about what you would like for yourself. And that little altar space is just so lovely to honor and to bring them close to you, right? Because that really helps us understand the cycle, the circle of it all, you know. Um, yeah. Any Becca, Sharon, any thoughts, comments, feedback?
I like the altar. I wish I could do something like that, but I got cats.
I have cats.
Yeah.
I've just
Yeah,
trained them.
You just put it up on the higher up on the wall. Yeah.
yeah. That doesn't work.
It's fine.
Melanie likes to climb.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
and I like that reading.
Mhm.
Me too.
Beautiful.
I think it will be, you may have to record it
Yeah.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that it can be done when it's my turn to go.
Yeah.
So you don't have to
Read it.
read it. Yes, yes.
It's hard enough.
I think that's
Yeah.
now become part of my ceremony.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And what I kind of want to do was there are clips. So you can't read the whole book. I mean you could, but what I want to do is kind of like there are really powerful kind of paragraphs um sprinkled throughout the entire book. And what I feel like is that you could do is you could pull pieces of it throughout and kind of have this kind of short almost Cole's Notes version of it.
Yes, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
that just kind of is a testament to what we believe. Yeah.
That's
And
beautiful.
pictures from your own life.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's lovely.
It's
Yeah,
weird to think about.
it is. But that's what we're exercising, that muscle, that we don't use and very often, you know. I was going to say, oh yeah, I gave my son that book to read last summer. He's like, oh, I need a book to read. And it's like, yeah, because we're traveling and I don't want you on your computer and on your phone the whole time. So here's a book. And I gave him that one. So, you know, he's
Short,
only
but
13.
wow.
He'll probably have to read it again at some point. I know I read it when I was a teenager and I'm probably due for another read. But yeah, it's a beautiful book. Beautiful.
So special. So
Yeah.
special.
Thank you,
And
Lorraine.
I found it was funny, just before the funeral, I was sitting on my yoga mat, which is right beside the bookshelf there. And I was like, I don't know what to do. What am I even gonna do? I don't know what song to do. I just have no idea what to do.
Mm.
And I looked over and there it was. It's like, oh, something
It's
there I'm
interesting
sure.
for me. I have never read it. You need to
Ah,
bring it tomorrow. The music was, I think every time I had tea at Sandy's, that was the music we played.
we had
Um,
a cassette. So I can remember, so it was before we left Bowmanville. So it was 1981. I was 7 years old or younger, and I played that cassette so many times that the one side went through to the other.
Yes, I've done that. You get the ghost
I
sounds. Yeah.
loved it. I mean, so at by 6 or 7 years old, I was entranced by that music.
yes.
Just
I don't think
entranced.
I'm gonna have to find it. Yeah.
It's on
Yeah.
Spotify.
It is? Okay. Good.
If you have the entire albums on Spotify. So today, as I was getting ready for this, I was creating that little altar space and listening to it. I just had it on
Ah,
repeat over and over. It's
Mhm.
just lovely.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's lovely. Well, thank you so much for that. And again, I forgot to ask you, Sharon. So I'm going to ask you and Lorena, how was the process for you? How did you feel after having done this project?
Rich and opening. Just really rich, just adding to the experiences already. Your piece about breakfast and past lives. I It's been a long time since I bumped into a piece that has explained to me so clearly the glitches that I saw in while I was Patty O'Shea in 1892, that kind of stuff that never works out because the times aren't right, the people aren't right, but people say, I know you, I've known you for a long time. When you talk about infinite lives and not remembering what you had for breakfast, that just really opened. That was huge. That was just huge for me to sort of say, I get it.
Mhm.
That's what infinite means.
Yeah.
And infinite is over and over and over,
Yeah.
forever, for always. So for me, that piece of all of the things was probably the most valuable to me. And it just went boom, opening.
Beautiful. Thank you. Good. May it continue to open and blossom.
Bill.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lorena?
Um, yeah, it's kind of been eye-opening on multiple levels, pragmatically, in terms of housekeeping and cleaning up. I think for the last couple of years I've been so busy cleaning up. You know what I think what it really brought close to me was yesterday I did nothing I was supposed to do. Nothing. I've had mountainous lists for years now. And I think what this entire process has brought to me is just not a rude awakening, but an awakening in terms of, these moments are precious. And I have been living in very hot water and not realizing it and boiling myself to death.
Mhm.
I've been making myself very, very sick. And um, I feel like I need to have a funeral for that person.
Yes, good
Yes.
idea.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead. Yeah.
yeah, that's it. Just
It's
it's really important.
great that you mentioned that. So I'm keeping my eye on the time. Your projects were more important than this guided meditation. We don't have time to do it today. We'll do it Friday if you can make it.
Yeah.
If you can't make it on Friday, you'll get the recording and you can do it on your own, or you can do it again. But that's what I was going to say. This guided meditation that we're going to do, I didn't write it. It was written by Stephen Levine. There, it's actually a death meditation, but I was going to make a disclaimer, which I'll do again on Friday. When you're asked to die in this
Hey.
and in this meditation. So I was going to say trigger warning. But what I was going to say, it's more like what Lorena was just saying. Dying to this other self, dying to this heavy, burdened, boiling water, frog in the boiling water self. So when you do the meditation, we're going to release that
Brilliant.
being.
Like
Awesome.
that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
Wow.
that's what I'd like. So
Wow.
when we die on Friday, that's what we're dying to.
Finally.
Please,
Yeah, we're
thank
exactly.
you.
We're gonna just let it all go. We're gonna say goodbye to that
That's
being.
brilliant. I was going to
So
do that myself last night and I was like, oh, I'm too tired. But yeah, awesome. Thank
and then
you.
I don't want to rush through it. It's a beautiful meditation. Okay, so what I will do though in our remaining times, first of all, that's before I share the screen. I wanted to share a little bit of just a reflection that I had. So remember at the beginning of the course, I was talking about I have this issue with lasts,
Hmm.
right? So I hate even when I throw out my earplugs. Like I use earplugs when I take my siesta. So the world is gone from, and I have to throw them out. I always say thank you, but I'm always like, I wonder what's going to happen to them. They were so sweet, you know. And I have to like I keep things like sponges way too long, you know what I mean? And so I've always had this thing with lasts. I have every single piece of artwork my son has ever made over the last 14 years. Um, but anyway, I can't seem to, it's not that I'm a hoarder, it's just it's been very hard for me to release things or have the last thing be the last thing until part of this class helped me to see it differently. So when I had that meditation and I got that message, Sharon, that you were referring to the breakfast concept of we don't remember our past lives the way we don't remember what we had for breakfast a year ago. And that's okay. We have to trust that we nourished ourselves that morning or that we decided not to, or whatever it is. That eternity allowed me to let go of some of the obsessiveness about lasts. So, and you all are part of that. You all are part of, here we are at the last class. And I was just saying that before I got on the call. I was like, this is the last class. And and then I was okay with it because there will be more. There will be others. We don't know what's going to happen yet. And each moment that we do these things is precious. That's the memento mori. And I'm so grateful to have shared this time with you and to have your amazing input and your ability to go deep, which makes this class so much better. So I wanted to share my gratitude for that and let you know that it was beneficial for me. I was not happy with that whole lasts thing. All right, so let's this is just a bit of a course review. So I want you to think about has this worked out for you? What did we do? How did you show up? So when we go back to the taboo of death. Have you considered the taboo of death and how you feel about it? Now, you don't have to answer these questions. They're somewhat rhetorical, or there might be something you want to jot down to say, I need to go back and circle back to that and spend more time with that. Embracing mortality. Well, that's what we've been doing all session, but are you closer to embracing the reality of your mortality, transforming that fear into acceptance and empowerment? Can you do that? Have you been able to do that? Well, is that an ongoing practice for you? Are you closer to, or have you decided what your thoughts or beliefs are about what happens after you die? And if you have a conviction about that, are you open to them shifting over the years, or do you feel solid? There is no right or wrong. These are just general questions for your own review. Do you know what dying well means to you? Now, given what I've seen today, I think you all have an idea of what would make you feel comfortable or what you feel would be a good death. Do you have a better understanding of what it'll look like for you and how to achieve it? And that's kind of what the practice was about. And then this kind of tied into the last class, which a couple of you didn't take, but this is important to consider. Do you better understand how your individual life contributes to collective consciousness and the quantum field? So when we talk about, and that kind of ties into the afterlife, or the fact that you are here, whatever it is you decide to do in this life, how you contribute to all around you while you are in this energetic iteration, right? So something to think about. Like that's also the memento mori part. Remember, you will die makes life precious, and what we have here in this life is our gift. We don't have to do anything huge to contribute positively to the world around us. Our relationships, caring for animals, having our friends, our family, even the way we interact with colleagues or strangers, makes an impact in the world, you know. So, any thoughts or questions or yeah buts or comments or anything? Okay, good. All right. Well, there I am. I 3 minutes to spare, but yeah. But and I'm sorry we didn't get to the meditation today, but I'm super glad that we spent so much time talking about your projects, and I do appreciate how much time you put into them. For myself, I fall into the Becca and Lorena camp. It's online. I haven't downloaded it. I haven't downloaded it yet. I have a whole other thing I have to think about, which is my therapy practice and what happens to my patients and, you know, that kind of thing without breaching confidentiality. And so I'm going to need an attorney for that one. But
Yes, please have that figured out.
I'm not going anywhere. So
You better not.
Better not. Oh my God.
I don't leave my house,
Out
basically.
you.
So, what do they say? So many accidents happen at home. I won't jinx it, but
Yeah.
I'm very, very careful. Well, anyway, everybody, it has been a tremendous blessing, and please stay in touch. I do want to mention that that I have a new program coming up that starts in January. I think you all got an email asking for some feedback about what you'd like. And I will be in touch about it, but it's a year-long, technically 10-month program because I take August and December off, or we will because of holidays. And August is my birthday month, so I don't work. It's just how it is. And I'm the big 5-5 this year. So yeah, it's exciting. So I will be in touch about that. And that's one way to continue our work together. But I'll give you an overview. It's going to be basically anything you can imagine that we would cover in therapy, whether it's boundaries, self-talk, interoception, using the body, people pleasing, all that kind of thing. You're going to get individual courses that you can self-study at your leisure. We're going to continue to have Friday coaching calls, and then you will each get, anyone who signs up gets a monthly one-on-one session with me. So you have self-study work, you have group work, and you have individual as all part of the package.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And so what I've been asking people to do is send me what's the major topic you're working on in your life right now, so that I can help make sure that I'm covering as much as possible of what people actually want. So it's a little alternative to talk therapy. It's which some people really enjoy. But some people also say, I think Lorena, you had said this, like when you come back week after week after week, it's like, I need to go practice
Yeah,
this.
like I'd gotten to the point in my life where I'd kind of done like that individual deep digging, but I was like, oh, I want to keep working with you, but I don't feel like I need that. And I feel like
Right.
this is just having Becca and mom and you and like all of this, it I just feel so much more rounded. It
Right.
just to have that
Right.
kind of group therapeutic space feels held by you. Yeah.
Well, and the interesting thing for me is with the loss of Sandy,
Mhm.
it's like sometimes it's hard to find your tribe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it feels like you people are my tribe because I mean, it's fine to talk about the haircuts and the new toothpaste and the this and the that, but I my soul is just begging for like, so what's really happening?
Yes. Yes.
What are you really thinking? Where are you
Absolutely.
really going?
Right.
Well, when I first started with Rachel, you had said to me, "You're very self-aware," and I said, "Yes, that's the problem. I
Yeah,
am very aware of
exactly.
these things. I need to figure out how to work with them."
Yeah. Okay. So exactly. So I'm glad to get this feedback. Sharon, I just got a response to my email from a previous student who had said, yeah, the thing she wants is community. And so I'm going to be getting it out there. I'm going to hire somebody to help me with some Facebook ads and get the right people into this community. But I'm working on that. That's my summer and fall project, but you will hear about it. Please feel free to share with friends and family so that we can get some of those right-minded people in the group as well. And other than that, I'll see you on Friday.
Thank
See you
you.
Friday.
All right, get ready to meditate then.
See you Friday, guys.
All right,
Bye.
see you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.